What if I told you Allah is unjust and sends people to heaven and hell without them having any moral accountability? This one hadith destroys Sunni Islam. 1.8 billion people completely. Sahih Muslim 2652c. First, we'll read it and break it down part by part. Let's get to it. Part 1. There was an argument between Adam and Moses in the presence of their Lord. Adam came the better of Moses, meaning Adam and Moses are arguing in front of Allah, and Adam won the argument. Let's see what the argument was all about. Part 2. Moses said, "Are you that Adam whom Allah created with his hand and breathed into him his spirit and commanded angels to fall in prostration before him, and he made you live in paradise with comfort and ease? Then you caused the people to get down to the earth because of your lapse." Meaning, Moses pointing at Adam, telling him that you were given every privilege, and yet you still chose to commit that act of eating from the tree, which led us all out of paradise. Moses is blaming him. Let's see Adam's response. Part 3. Adam said,
"Are you that Moses, whom Allah selected for his messengership and for his conversation with him, and conferred upon you the tablets, in which everything was clearly explained, and granted you the audience in order to have confidential talk with you? What is your opinion? How long the Torah would have been written before I was created?"
Moses said, 40 years before. Adam said,
"Did you not see these words? Adam committed an error, and he was enticed to do so."
Moses said, "Yes." Whereupon Adam said,
"Do you then blame me for an act which Allah had ordained for me, 40 years before he created me?"
Allah's messenger said, "This is how Adam came the better of Moses." Meaning, Adam tells Moses he was granted direct speech with God, and he was given the Torah. And in that Torah that was given to you in your own hands, did you not see it's written that I eat from the tree? That same Torah was written for you 40 years before I ever existed. So how can I have made that choice? How can you blame me for an act I committed if it was written for me before I ever existed? And the Prophet makes it clear that Adam won the argument. I'll explain the problem and answer every objection. Let's get into it. First, as explained previously, Adam's logic in refuting Moses is, I cannot be morally accountable for an act that was decreed for me before I ever existed. There's an issue. Every single act in existence has been decreed for all of us before we ever existed. Let's listen.
Predestiny is one of the 6 pillars of Iman, of faith. Is everything written down of our future? Yes. The Prophet told us, ﷺ, when Allah, the Almighty, created the pen, He ordered the pen to write. And the pen asked, "What should I write, O Lord?" And Allah said, "Write the destiny of all of my creation." The Prophet tells us, ﷺ, this was 50,000 years before Allah created the creation. So this was before creating the universe. 50,000 years before. Everything is done and over with. So do you mean to tell me if I hold a pen and I decide to let it go, it's written in the preserved tablet in the Lawh al-Mahfuz? I said, yes. So if I drop it, it's written. I said, yes. If I decide not to drop it, it's also written. So whether you do or not do, everything is written. 50,000 years before Allah created the creation, it was written that on this specific day, at that specific moment, I will drop the pen. So whatever you do in regards to the means, this is written, and the result and the consequence is also written.
Here are the 4 most common rebuttals to this argument, and I'll refute each one. 1.
No. It's based on Allah's foreknowledge. Allah knows what we're going to do in advance.
I've already refuted this response in length in my previous video on the Islamic free will dilemma. But here's a summarized response. Go check out my previous video if you're still confused. The first issue. The 6th pillar of faith is believing in the divine decree, which is split into 4 pillars: knowledge, writing, creation, and will. By saying it's merely foreknowledge, you've collapsed the divine decree in a single pillar, disregarding the pillar of writing. The second issue. There's 3 types of Tawheed, one of which is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, oneness in Allah's lordship, that entails that Allah alone acts and is sovereign over everything. By saying you can originate motives and desires, that you truly had a choice, you fall into shirk by partnering with Allah in writing His divine decree. Allah consulted your choice, serving His creatures' motives and desires to write His decree. You're a co-author of the divine decree, and you violated Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Lastly, it's irrelevant to the Hadith, because Adam is explicit that he cannot be blamed for his action by virtue of it being written down, not by virtue of Allah foreknowing. Next, rebuttal number 2.
No. Adam repented for this act in Quran 237.
As stated previously, every act we do is written for us, meaning that repentance itself was written and part of the script to begin with. There's no moral agency behind it. Also, Adam is explicit in saying he can't be blamed for the act by virtue of it being written down before his creation, not because he repented. Next, rebuttal number 3.
No. Moses and Adam are talking about the effect of being kicked out of paradise, not the act itself.
First, Moses clearly says, because of your lapse. That is what he's holding him blameworthy for. Second, Adam points Moses to the verse of the Torah in question, which is about him doing the lapse, not about being kicked out of paradise. Third, Adam clearly responds that it's an act, and that this act was written for him, not a consequence that was written for us or humanity. Fourth, effects aren't separated from their cause. If I show up to court for unaliving an innocent girl, am I blamed for the unalivement but not shooting the pew-pew? Fifth, shifting from cause to effect doesn't change anything. The effect is a cause in a posterior chain of events. I can just refer to Adam's act as an effect of a prior cause and say it's predestined. Sixth, if Adam is only blamed for the effect, then you concede to no free will. Why? Free will requires that you are the efficient cause of your action. Since the cause here is not ascribed to Adam, he fails to meet the requirements for free will. Finally, the Arabic is extremely clear. Here's a breakdown. Moses says, ثُمَّ أَهْبَطْتَ النَّاسَ بِخَطِيئَتِكَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. Ahbatta is causative. It means you caused. Bi khati'atika means because of your sin. Adam says, أَفَتَلُومُنِي عَلَى أَنْ عَمِلْتُ عَمَلًا كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيَّ أَنْ أَعْمَلَهُ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَخْلُقَنِي بِأَرْبَعِينَ سَنَةً. أَنْ عَمِلْتُ عَمَلًا means I did an action or a deed. كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيَّ means which Allah written upon me. أَنْ أَعْمَلَهُ means that I would do. The Arabic is extremely clear that it's referring to the act, not the effect. Next, rebuttal 4.
Why is a conversation between two prophets binding on me?
It's binding on you because, 1, you derive theology from prophets, but more importantly, the Prophet Muhammad himself said that Adam won the argument, meaning that the theological proposition Adam made is the correct one. It's over. Goodbye.